Yes, you. Do you dread waking up in the morning? Are you feeling helpless in your society? Perhaps even a bit lost? Well, look no further.
Well, as millions head to U.S. national parks this summer, we are shedding light on a little-known list called the List of the Missing.
All new Scareflix merch 10% off.
A ranger on the list of the missing for more than 4 decades, and cases go back further. The National Park Service has faithfully kept records of visitors who are gone, often without a trace, and the list is long.
Police have identified more victims and plan on more than just the 4 murder charges filed today.
Good evening. You're turned into Scareflix News at midnight.
Confirm earlier reports of cannibalism.
Reports are coming in of unexplained screams echoing through an abandoned coal mine in West Virginia.
The building was a scene of ghoulish slaughter.
Local authorities refuse to investigate. Witnesses say it doesn't want to be found.
A large kettle on the stove which held boiled body parts.
In other news, several viewers have claimed strange activity begins the moment they tune into live stream from a channel called Scareflix.
Identified 4 victims.
Please stay indoors, lock your doors, and whatever you do, don't go offline. You're watching Scareflix News, your last reliable source for what lurks after dark.
Welcome to Scareflix, where nightmares come to life. In just a few seconds, the scariest videos on YouTube will begin. Are you ready to face your fears? Hold tight, the terror is about to start.
Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Scareflix. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Sorry I wasn't here Wednesday. I was going through some stuff, but we're back again. Tonight we're going to be going through some of my buddy from the Paranormal Files on YouTube. We're going to be going through some of his videos, and then tomorrow night we'll be going through some other stuff. So figure it out. We'll have a good time tonight. So what's up, Kelly? Boogeyman, as always. Lauren, hello, how you doing? Let's jump into it. So apparently this dude right here, right? He investigated this tour guy. It's labeled, I will not go into these mountains alone. The story of the most haunted mountain range in America. I'm going to go ahead and let him just explain everything else to you guys. So let's get into it.
Tell you as a professional guide, as a hunter, as a botanist looking for plants and Indian ruins, this is the one mountain range I will not go into alone.
He won't go into that one alone? Okay. I've heard a little bit of this man's story, but not all of it.
On the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona sits the infamous Superstition mountain range, a grouping of massive peaks and landforms which have come to be known as some of the most haunted and most dangerous in the entire United States. While we were wrapping up our series of paranormal investigations in Arizona, we knew for a fact that we had to stop by the Superstitions to see just how haunted they were for ourselves. When we got into town for our investigation that night, we met up with Corey, a local professional guide who specializes in taking people hiking throughout various wildlife areas in Arizona, and we headed into the Superstitions wilderness. It's definitely a spooky walk, even in the daytime. The way that the land feels, how it speaks to you as you head down the twisting paths, and the power that the area has is indescribable.
We'll see.
It's a very spiritual, yet also frightening experience. Corey is an insanely knowledgeable guide who researches the paranormal world as a side gig and knows a thing or two about the animal and plant life in these areas. For example, check out right here as he grabs a prickly pear cactus, lights it on fire to singe the needles off, and peels it back to give us a taste of the desert fruit. It was pretty insane how knowledgeable Corey was, and the fruit was pretty tasty.
What's the area called?
Back to a good vantage point where we could see the mountains and conduct our interview, I couldn't help but notice the stifling feel of the environment around the Superstitions.
It looks like Nevada or Arizona.
I could feel it in my chest. This area has seen some crazy negative events in the past, and I'm sure it will see even more in the future. I guarantee that what Corey is about to tell you will blow your mind.
We will see. We will see. I've always heard part of his story before, maybe like 40 seconds.
Spooky voices from the cactus field. So why don't you introduce yourself? You can look right at the camera.
He said the pay.
You got it.
All right. I'm Corey Daniel, professional guide down here out of Phoenix, Arizona.
There we go, Phoenix, Arizona.
What else?
I knew it was one of the two.
I'm Corey Daniel, professional guide down here in Phoenix, Arizona with the Paranormal Files, and we are standing on the northwest edge of the Superstition mountain range. What you're looking at here in the background is 5 interconnecting volcanic calderas, which are underground volcanic systems, which exploded or formed more appropriately a dome about 28 to 30 million years ago. And
that I did not know that. That's crazy. I didn't know that's how they formed over there. But
and they used to be about 3 times higher than they are now. They have worn down over the years.
Sedona
Back when this was blowing up for about 5 to 8 million years, geologists believe, this whole area was uninhabitable. There was just gas and clouds and ash everywhere. These cliffs you're seeing right behind me are welded tough. The Superstition mountain range is agreed upon by all geologists to be probably the most vicious and roughest mountain range in the lower 48 states.
I wonder why that is.
It's not a place to be taken lightly. There are deaths up here regularly every year from hikers.
It's hot.
And that does not include the murders. It does not include the mysterious disappearances dating all the way back to the days of the Jesuits. And that's why we're talking with the Paranormal Files today. Everything in the Superstition Mountains centers around Apaches and
the Apaches.
Gold. And it's ironic because there's never been any gold found in this mountain range. In fact, geologists say that this type of rock formation does not allow for gold. There's been gold all the way around it. If you go off to the west, we're going to be at Goldfield in a little bit here, there is fields of gold. It's called Goldfield. And they mine gold there. One of the richest gold mines in the entire state historically has been in that little town, the ghost town that we're going to be in. If you go to the other side, the town of Superior, Globe in Miami, Arizona, not Florida. There's gold all through there, and copper and other heavy metals as well, silver and some other stuff. But nothing really in the mountain range. That being said, the stories and the hunters and the gold hunters and treasure hunters have been coming out here for
probably for a while now,
hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
thing. This mountain range it's gone by dozens of names. Today it's called the Superstitions. If you're a local, you know it as the Soups. If you want to sound like a Phoenician from Phoenix, we call them the Soups. It's had dozens and dozens of names depending on who was.
But what's there? Is it like skinwalkers? Like, I know I heard him say something flew over him one time, but what are they claiming that's there?
Living here at the time.
Yo, what's up, Cloud? How you doing?
The Apaches knew this mountain range as the abode of the thunder gods, and they still refer to it as that. This mountain range, for some reason, and the geologists and the climatologists don't know, it makes weather. During the monsoon seasons and even for the winter rains, our rains are split in two, January, February, and then July and August, and by 4 months of drought on both sides.
Oh, wow.
These mountain ranges can be just completely full of weather, and when it does, being a volcanic drainage, a decomposing caldera, you get floods coming out of Boulder Canyon, Peralta Canyon. I mean, crazy floods, and that's the flood that actually wiped out the town of Goldfield we're going to be at later, back in, I want to say, 1898. And it filled up, it flooded out the entire town and filled up all the passages and scrambled all the gold in the mines. They had to shut it down. They couldn't get back to the gold again. So it's a treacherous mountain range. I'll tell you, as a professional guide, as a hunter, as a botanist who goes out looking for plants and Indian ruins, this is the one mountain range I will not go into alone. I have an extremely healthy respect for this mountain range. I backpack solo and backcountry off trail as a minimalist, and I don't go in here alone. There are people who have hiked these mountains for years and years and one day just wind up dead. The gold stories that permeate this entire mountain range all center around
they're on some haunted land.
Family, and the Peralta was down here in the mid-1800s. He supposedly found a mine. He didn't find a mine. He found gold, and he was mining it right back. You can see that little peak right back in there in the foreground. Just over that is Massacre Grounds. And Massacre Grounds is where Peralta's men.
Massacre Grounds? What a name. I stayed the night in Goldfield at the inn. I didn't notice any ghosts. Oh, you were at a motel, weren't you? Or is that place haunted too?
Allegedly 400 of them died. They were massacred by the Apaches.
Wow.
Like I said, the Apache call this the abode of the thunder gods. It is equivalent to a church to them, and they wanted Peralta out of here. He would not leave. He even informed them that they were all no longer Apache, but they were now Mexicans.
This place is supposed to be super haunted.
And the
Skinwalkers, all that.
While this is the story, and a lot of historians will tell this story, there's no actual proof, and it's one of those weird things. There's no hard copy on that. People have looked and looked and looked. However, People
No, at
have a
Goldfield?
lot of paranormal experiences right back in there on massacre grounds. Apparently 398 people, as the story goes, were massacred there.
Damn.
2 jumped over the mountain and ran back to Mexico. And 1 made it and told the stories. They tried to get the Mexican government to come back up and start mining again, but the Mexican-American War was going on.
He's going to
at the time,
talk about
and
how
12 years later, the Gadsden
he
Purchase happened,
encountered
and
some
this became part of the
skinwalker
U.S.
hiking out
territories.
here or something
During
like that.
fight, during that massacre, there were about 80 to 100 mules that had saddles on, and they had gold concentrate in them. Those mules ran out into the desert, and they were never seen again. They believe the Apaches found the mules, ate them or sold them, and took all that gold and piled it up. They didn't really know what to do with it.
Possibly.
Gold, they knew it was valuable to the white people. There is confirmation from Dr. Thorne years later, but to skip to the end of the story here, when the U.S. Cavalry came over during the Apache Wars, they started finding, a couple people found some actual saddlebags, and it did confirm this story. 2 were found, definitely, and about another 9 or 12 allegedly. People retired on it, and then...
You know, I came here for some spooky stories that he's about to tell, but this history is just kind of killer right now.
This became Killing Fields. I believe
Killing
there is
Fields.
a book yet to be written about psychopaths and psychopathy in the Old West. You know, we romanticize about the cowboys and the Indians, about the gambling and the shootouts and the law enforcement, but what you never hear about are the dregs of society that went west, that got pushed west on the frontier, where there was no law, to where they could dry gulch anyone and take their wagon and their horse and just commit murders willy-nilly. It was well known back east during that time that there was gold up in these mountains and bags of it laying all over the place. And there's a lot of evidence that people were coming out here just bushwhacking people left and right. They found some bones not too long ago over
they got gold
on the other side of that mountain, and they think it may have been part of the Peralta massacre, but they're not sure. They've been finding headless people in here, bodies minus heads.
Jesus.
And then they'll find the head months later or years later, like wedged in a crack, on some cliff 10 miles away, right? The primary story that these mountain ranges, that this mountain range delivers to us is that of Jacob Waltz and the Lost Dutchman. And he was a Prussian. He wasn't a Dutchman. He's actually Prussian. He came out here, and his girlfriend at the time, Ken T, she was an Apache. She showed him something up here. Whether she showed him a mine or Jesuit gold or the bags of the gold, we don't know. But those 2 were pulling gold out of here. Where that mine was, we don't know, because Jacob Waltz took that knowledge to his death. On his deathbed, he allegedly said that the entrance to his mine is where the shadow of Weaver's Needle is cast at 4 o'clock.
Okay, boys, I figured out what we have to do. Okay, listen, hear me out. We got to go find that gold. Listen, we'll split it all evenly. We'll get a big house. Okay, we'll all live there. It'll be good. It'll be good.
In the afternoon, people have been looking with ground-penetrating radar where the shadow is with the sun on every day of the year. People have been at this for 100 years looking for this thing. No one's ever found it. So that's the primary story that surrounds about 300 books, documentaries written about that lost gold story. And if you're chasing gold, this is a great place to tear up boots and kill horses out here, because it's a very, very rugged mountain range. There have been people looking for this gold mine ever since about 1891, 1892, just after Jacob Waltz died.
Oh, wow.
And that's when the headless people come in. Like I said, there's famous stories. I'm not getting into all of them here. There's books dedicated to the people who have come out here from the east looking for this gold mine, only to have their bodies found later, minus a head. Right, so those stories are everywhere. This is the roughest mountain range in the lower 48 states, and it has a hell of a story in terms of deaths surrounding it. A lot of people believe, and I heard this today, I was listening to some older videos about this mountain range. Wow. They believe that there's still a society of either Pima or Apache. I've heard it was the Apache that still protect this mountain range, a small society that protects it physically by killing people who get too close to the caves.
Today?
Today's story I heard was from a gentleman related to Jesse James down there. Actually, he works at there. He did work down there at Goldfield. He said it was Pima, stuff? But I don't know. The gold doesn't interest me much as a researcher, and as a child of the desert down here.
Everybody wants some gold. Come on now.
It's the occultic side, personally, and I search out the ancient stories. There are stories of caves caves in this entire mountain range. And some of those stories center around people like the Phoenix Herald back in the 1800s had a story about a gentleman who was up here chasing horses, and he was up on the side of a hill, and he went into a cave, and he found copper axes, and he found the bones of about 7 giants, people about 8 to 10 feet tall, right? And if you follow this genre of research, all the Native Americans have stories of giants as well as little people. But it's the giants down here in the southwest that is the big one. Whether it's the Gila, the Apache called them the Gwindipids, right? The Hopi talk about them, and they all factor into the creation story. But he says that there are definitely caves with giants' bones in them up in there. There was another story David Hatcher Childress told in his one of his last books. He had a friend named Robert, lived in Sedona, and that gentleman was up here in this mountain range, and he found a cave with his friend, and it went down a spiral staircase. It was hand-hewn rock.
What? A cave? That's crazy. Yo, what's up, bass catcher? How you doing tonight?
It was hand carved. They went down and found another chamber deep into the ground. There was another story later on about some people up on the side of, I think it's Large Canyon or Boulder Canyon, I'm not sure, where they talk about finding a cave up on the side.
I think it's Boulder Canyon.
And they go in this little fissure, and this room opens up. I believe there were 6 gentlemen on this expedition. The room fit 5, and one guy looked in another fissure in the back, and he saw a crystal or a glass skull shoved in it. They couldn't get back to it. They tried to dynamite it. It didn't work. They decided just to leave it and seal it back up. So these stories are all through here. You can go the route of the portals, right?
Check the crystal.
You say portals and people think that you're crazy, but the Native Americans believe them. Every single tribe talks about portals opening up to the other side, especially down here in this part of Arizona. Most of the natives up north will tell you about their star brothers and their star sisters. They're not shy. You won't find a native tribe that doesn't believe in aliens, that we were actually seeded here. Most of my native friends will tell you that we were seeded from another race. But down here, there's portals.
That's how I feel.
If you don't subscribe to our channel already, please click that subscribe button and make sure to turn your notifications
Check out the Paranormal Files
on. It helps us so much, and we can't thank all of you enough for the love and support. Also, if you don't follow me, Colin, on Instagram yet, go hit that follow button and go do the same with Peyton, who's even more popping on there than me. Getting more followers gets us one step closer to the big dreams that we have for this channel. In addition, if you want to support the show,
shout out to him too for hitting. He's almost at 1 million on TikTok.
Designs, if you ask me.
Or
thank you to
he
everyone
might have
that
hit
has bought
1
a piece
million
in the past, and trust me, we see.
You guys heard of Mount Graham? Up there, Mount Graham. On top of Mount Graham in southern Arizona, outside of Tucson, is the largest observatory in the state. You know who owns that? The Vatican.
What?
And there's a lens up there called the Lucifer lens. Can't make this up. Lucifer.
The Lucifer lens? Yo, I gotta check that out. The Lucifer lens?
No! God, please, no!
We're doing that one.
And it stands for like a long range, infrared, extra whatever. They had to make it fit. But
yeah.
It is, yeah. That mountain range was sacred. That mountain, Mount Graham, was sacred to the Apache. And when they went in there, in conjunction, the Vatican with U of A down there to put this in, they actually went to court because the Apache said, "No, you're not going to be up there doing this."
Yeah.
This is one of our sacred mountains. The Vatican put resources and money and battled them in court for years, and they won. I mean, if you go up against the Vatican, you're probably going to lose, right? They got pretty good lawyers, I'm guessing, and they definitely lost. And they built that up there. The Apache say it's because it is a center for power, and they wanted that location for that astronomy, whatever the Vatican is into up here. You got another mountain range off to the you can't see from here. Off to the southwest corner
believe that just because I've heard of the Lucifer.
Phoenix. It's called the.
I'm pretty sure it's a telescope, right? It's called Lucifer, but it's an acronym for something. But I did not know that the Vatican owned it, and I did not know that they called it Lucifer.
Sierra de las Estrellas, the Mountain of the Stars, and that one features prominently with stories of the Pima and the Gila tribes talking about portals opening up. They say their gods used to come through. They would communicate with people back and forth. Right? I'll tell you a story. When I was cowboying in the western part of the state, a little town called Wickiup,
this is what I've been waiting for.
I met a gentleman by the name of Jim Miller, He was an old prospector. He was old when I met him. And he told me that sometime in the mid-'80s, a gentleman came through who used to prospect in those mountains around Wickiup, Arizona, back in the 50s. And this guy just got out of the VA hospital back then, apparently. This older guy was old as well. And he said that he used to run a mule and walk up into the Aquarius mountain range right there. And right in the wash, right in, I believe it was Sycamore Wash, he said he would see this portal open right there, right at ground level. And he'd throw rocks into it and it would disappear. So that's what happened. He said he was getting the courage to jump through it, and he never did. He had a plan to, like, I guess, tie a rope down to a chicken and throw it in there and pull it back. If it came out not like all messed up, he was going to go through, but it never opened after he got the courage.
Damn.
These stories are out here. You know, if you talk to people enough, especially the older people, they'll tell you these stories. Native Americans will talk about this stuff all day long. So, you know, I don't know. This mountain also factors into the creation story. Every Native American out here, obviously every people have their own creation story, but the ones out here all center around giants and floods. And all these crags you see up here on the western cliff, how good the light is right now, but those are supposed to be the frozen giants, the people who froze on their way up to the top during that last flood. So, I don't know. It's this mountain range has got a lot of stories. Recently in the 80s, I forget the lady's name. If I get it, some of these things get mixed up in my head after a while, but it was either Arizona Wilder or a Catherine something. She says that she was up Boulder Canyon.
What's up, Bass?
Right up in there. And she was rock hounding. And she went into a cave, and on her way out of the cave, she says a reptilian stepped out. Bipedal, reptilian, humanoid looking thing. I mean, you know, and it flashed the light at her, and she woke up on a table in a craft, she assumed. And she was taken advantage of, and it's on the internet, you can go check it out. She swears by the story, she's been telling it for 35, 40 years now. That story is out here.
So what do you think it is behind the mountains that makes it so, I don't know, so many stories about it? What do you think causes that?
You know, I don't know. As a researcher, I hate to jump to conclusions and say I think it's this. I know that there are paranormal anomalies that never end. From the days of the Jesuits to the Spanish to the Mexican to the Indians to the Americans, things have happened. This mountain range has always been at the focal point. I know the government came in and turned it into a state wilderness. Now I got theories on that out west, right? America was filling up, and you got the National Park Service in 1919, right?
Right.
Actually, was it 1912? The Grand Canyon became a park in 1919. That's the big one. But you have Yellowstone, Yosemite, all these places where paranormal activity happens, right? I don't know if you've been following that guy on the internet talking about missing people, 411 National Parks.
The missing 411 stuff. I love that stuff.
If you are a government and you are controlling a phenomenon, what better way than to put it under the jurisdiction of the government? This became a state wilderness. Arizona has wildernesses, okay? We have state monuments and state parks.
It kind of makes sense because you're not allowed to wander too far. Like you can go to a certain point, right? They're like, okay, if you're going to go to a state park now, here's your trail, stay on that, don't mess off, stay on here. If you don't, you're going to get a ticket. You're going to go to jail or something like that because you can't, because it's their land.
Parks, national monuments and national parks, and we have...
It's a way to keep people in check and not go looking around for things when they have to stay on the trail that was provided to them.
Wildernesses, and these are really special areas. I think we got like 60 of them here. Only a man or a woman can go into a wilderness on foot with a horse. No motorized vehicles, can't even hang glide over them. The only time you can put a chopper in there is for a medical evac.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
I bet they see some crazy stuff too.
Completely primitive. Even when the Forest Service comes in to do work on the trails, it's all saw and axes. They're not even allowed to use any electric or motorized stuff at all. So they are protecting these areas, and these areas do have a lot of paranormal activity. When I used to work over on the Yavapai Indian Reservation, just to the west of Phoenix, outside of Fountain Hills, one of their medicine men was, I would say a friend, but he was an acquaintance of mine. And I asked him, I said, why do you think that these areas out here on your res, he was telling me that they don't go out at nighttime because of the things that walk around at night, because of the little people.
Yeah, see, okay. So that's pretty much what my grandmother said that lived in New Mexico. is that there's certain parts of New Mexico where the Native Americans won't let you cross because they're not allowed to go out at a certain time at night. I didn't know it was because of that. I always thought it was because it was like spirits or ghosts or something, but
because of the invisible hairy people. He had all kinds of stories he used to tell me, right? Straight from his mouth. And he says, as someone who studies this and thinks about it for my people, I think it has to do with electrical fields. There was a lot of power in Phoenix back in the day.
True division, yeah. You're right. Some places are like that, but the places where things happen the most, like the Grand Canyon, Yosemite is strict. If you don't got a pass, you can't even go on the freeway that gets you up there. You have to. And there's signs everywhere telling you that you cannot stray off the path. You have to stay on the trails. So definitely parks like that, they do have restrictions on where you can go.
Because Phoenix is a very ancient, powerful place. But as people grow and the electric lines come in and you guys industrialize it, those electrical fields, I think, push away these spirits and these entities from the other side. When you go out into the wilderness still, people decompress out there because you don't have those energies. You don't have the electric, the Wi-Fi. And he says, I think it has to do with that, why things can come over from the other side there. He says that's how he explains a lot of the paranormal stuff. And you guys are paranormal, and it would stand to reason that we know it is an electrical phenomenon. We know the computer was invented to reach the other side. Do you guys know that?
No.
Research the origin of the computer and the guy that did it. He invented the computer to talk to the other side. That's where it came from.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's some great stuff on the internet, some old...
I also didn't know that. That's actually kind of creepy.
Researchers to put that stuff together.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's all electricity.
And technology
intertwined.
Oh yeah.
On my website, I talk at great length about sorcery and about energy and about mysticism and physics and how it's the same thing. Back in the day, you had a king, and a king hired an alchemist, and he was down in the basements mixing sulfur and trying to transmute lead into gold. Right. Today, you got MIT and Texas Instruments, funded by the government, down there bending space and time in some government lab.
True.
For DARPA.
Interesting.
Right? Nothing's changed. When the old
He's
world
not
sent
wrong.
the Mayflower over, when the Spanish and the French and the English, right, the pinnacle of modern civilization at that time, as soon as they had boats, they came over. They knew this was here. Everyone knew that the world wasn't flat. They were going to fall off the edge of it. Sorry for the flat earthers out there, by the way. But they took advantage of the resources and they monopolized on everything out here. They grabbed it and they secured it and they are allocating it today. When we go to the moon or when we go out into space, when humans leave space, it's not going to be the cashiers. It ain't going to be, the farmers. It's going to be those same bloodlines and the same people in positions of power who have been controlling the path of humanity the whole time.
They will get there first, and they will have first dibs on.
What do you think is your
businesses and
most definitive? Jesus, these bugs. Personal story from the mountains when you've been out here. What have you experienced?
I've never told this story before. I'll tell it. It happened. It's true. It's God's my witness. I was at Burrow Creek, almost to Wickiup. Go to Wickenburg, then Wickiup is about half there. You'll find it on a map. And that bridge there, that canyon, a lot of death has happened there. And I was there about 2 o'clock in the morning coming back from Phoenix. And I was out there with my dog on the edge overlook. I was taking a break. I was so tired. And I had my knife on me. I carried a knife back in the day. I was shoved in the front of my pants here. And it was about a 3/4 moon night, maybe. And I was feeling, it was nice out first, and I started feeling creepy. Something was bad. Something was wrong.
When something's watching you.
See that light out there, by the way? Do you think that's a hiker?
Could be. Could very well be coming back from the waterfall. The trail runs right up there.
Is that a 3/4 moon?
We're just over a half. It's almost 3/4, yeah. But no, it's close. So it was definitely a well-lit night, And it went from feeling awkward and weird to the hair on the back of my neck to I'm in imminent danger. And I was looking around, and I looked, my dog was under the truck. And I thought, shit, something's going on here. And I don't know why. I looked up and to my left, backwards, and something was bearing down on me. And I instinctively rolled, did an Aikido roll, it's martial arts. And when I came up, I grabbed my knife. But here's the weird part. As I was rolling, the thing buzzed me, and I heard it come by, and I heard cloth. It was wearing clothing, and it was flying. And this is a true story. And when I came back up, I pulled my knife out, and I screamed. It
was a Dementor, 100% a Dementor.
You know, the adrenaline went, and it was fight or flight. And I can't remember what I even screamed now, but it went out probably about 30, 40 yards. It stopped, it turned, and it hovered right there. What felt like about a minute, but it couldn't have been more than about 3 or 4 seconds, 5 seconds maybe. And it looked, and the best way I can describe it is if you've seen Lord of the Rings, remember them things that ride those dragons with the black things on? Those things. It looked like that.
Ugh.
It looked like that. It was wearing a black
wine rolls are better.
Black cloth. And that's what tripped me out. It was, it wasn't an owl, it wasn't a hawk.
Ugh.
It was hovering. It wasn't moving, it wasn't flying. It was hovering. And then it turned off to the southwest and went towards Greenwood Peak. And I watched it fly, and I watched it because the moon was bounced off, because it was a pretty bright night out, about a 3/4 moon night. That's the craziest damn thing I've ever seen out here in this desert.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I went home, and I called one of my friends and asked him, what he thought, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, what do you tell someone when they call you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell you that, But that happened. I've been in a canyon, and I found this little pile of dirt. It was red. I remember that, and I was kind of drawn to it, and I sat down on it. I mean, within a minute, I got tired, and then I got more tired, and then my rifle dropped out of my hand, and I felt like I was having all the energy sucked out of me. That happened, and I remember laying there, and I woke my eyes, and I was just kind of laying there. My dog, she wouldn't come up on top of the mound. It wasn't any more than probably about 7, 8 feet across, and I don't know what was on that mound or what it was made of, but I knew I had to get off that mound, or I was never going to get off it. So I kind of rolled over, and I rolled off of it. And as soon as I rolled off this mound, like everything just snapped back into place, and I was wide awake again. That happened.
Wow.
I have no idea. I wouldn't make that up,
Yeah, I don't know why you would.
It happened. So, there's a lot of stories. You spend enough time in the desert, and you'll start having some experiences.
I bet.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
have to come back to the superstitions, man.
They say there's only 3 kinds of people that go to the desert: prophets, prospectors, and madmen.
Which one are you?
I don't know yet. I'm only 42. So that's a synopsis of the Superstition Mountains here. It's a holy shrine. It is an ancient volcanic nightmare of rock. It is a place where alien abductions happen. It is a place where people have been missing heads for over 100 years. It's a place where the Apaches and the Pimas are both reputed to be in here protecting. It's a never-ending wellspring of stories, and mystery. Is right on the edge of Phoenix, Arizona, and
right over there.
Place. Beautiful.
You can see the lights.
Doing pretty good footage with the lights below. Good.
Real quick before we get out of these woods, do you think a number of people then have just died throughout this area that haven't been found yet?
I think of all the bodies that are buried out here. Set up at one time, it looked like downtown Manhattan. Think about it, just from what we know of. We can trace it back here. We know that the archaic Indians were here, and then there were the basket weaving culture. Then you had the greater cultures. This area was the Hohokam. You had the Salados, the Sinagwins, the Mugions, the Patayans, all that going on here. Then you have the Spanish. They came through. And then you have the Mexicans, part of Mexico, right? Then you have America. And since America got here, I mean, good God, what have we done out here in these mountains? Yeah, there's massacre grounds, the killing fields,
Yeah, it's crazy.
The Apaches were down here waging war for about 500 years before the Spanish got here and started whooping up on them. And the whole area is very turbulent. But if you get into the Pima creation stories, they talk about a time when there was an inland sea. We know that there was the Western Interior Sea that was up in here, it's all flooded. Strangely enough, they tell stories about this mountain range was not covered. So, and there's even maps where it's not covered on it that people have recreated, and someone found a petroglyph, I believe, and they believe it to be this sticking up out of the inland sea here.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that's been done about the Mojave Desert between here and California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Salton Sea is drying up.
Yeah,
but
the
they
Salton
believe
Sea.
just recently,
There's gold. There's
really
gold
within
under there.
5,000 years, that the water went all the way up into there. They think it was a lot more recent, and it was a lot.
I'm probably about an hour away from Salton Sea, and they just figured out that there was actually a ton of gold under it.
It was a lot richer in area. Think about it. Phoenix, Arizona. You don't think of it as a river town, right? But it is. We got 6 rivers that dump into Phoenix. You got the Gila, the Salt, the Verde, Agua Fria, Hacienda.
Yo, what's up,
and
James? How you
New
doing,
River.
bud?
Where have the most ancient of civilizations come from? Deserts with perennial water sources coming through. Egypt, Samaria, northern India. These are the cradles of ancient civilization. Phoenix is on the same parallel. It has 6 rivers dumping into it on the most biologically diverse parallel on Earth. This is not a harsh environment. This is it's a paradise, you know? Each of these rivers is a riparian biome of cottonwoods and willows and deer and hundreds of edible plants, and we have fresh clams and fish, right? They can irrigate real gently off of all of these rivers. Every year, the White Mountains flood out, come down the Salt and the Gila, and it puts more nutrients back into it, just like on the Nile. I think the real history of Phoenix is yet to be written.
True.
I really do.
And why won't you go at the end of the day here at night?
Yes, sir.
Like, what is your reasoning?
Yes, sir, Trine.
You know,
Not Skinwalker Ranch.
I don't need to. I've walked across half the state of Arizona at one time or another. I don't backpack for recreation. I don't shoot for recreation anymore. I don't four-wheel drive for recreation. These are skills in my back pocket. When I'm four-wheeling, it's to get back somewhere. When I am utilizing my backcountry skills, it's because I'm on an expedition. I don't just go shooting for fun. It just seems weird to me at this stage of my life. I've shot so many guns. I don't go hiking either for fun very often unless I'm with my kids. If I'm hiking, I'm on an expedition. And, you know, I've just kind of avoided this mountain range for the last probably decade here. I've been through it when I was a kid, but I don't know why. I just, something's pushing me out of it. I'll walk across the rest of the state at nighttime, and I have, but this mountain range, I don't know. Maybe we need to. Let's do it.
That's what I'm saying. We'll come back. That's what we're going to do.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. All right, we're going to go check out this other story. Pretty much it's an ex-border patrol agent. I think he's also a famous YouTuber that does paranormal stuff. I think we've seen him on Smithereen's channel. All right, this is by Paranormal Files, so go check him out when you guys get a chance.
There's
let's get it going.
Another agent. He was killed off duty, and they spread his ashes
Maybe not.
down the river.
Maybe this
I was
isn't
sitting
the
in
guy.
my truck. It was probably 2 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden there's a dude sitting next to me in my truck, and he was wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. I spun around and scared the crap out of me because there's nobody in my truck. I caught a glimpse of him just long enough to know who it was, and I had met him, and he was killed when I was pretty new in the patrol, but I knew who it was. All right, so this is Mount Cristo Rey. We're kind of on the western edge of the mountain. Right now there's agents up there looking for some people. He's up on the tracks up there. At any given time,
That's crazy.
There's going to be smugglers that are watching us from different points up there. They're going to be, you know, probably up in this area on the
What's
sort
up,
of on
Johnny?
the
How you
south
doing,
side.
the Larson?
If they're tucked into the rocks and stuff, we'll never be able to see them from where we're at.
So even if you have an agent walking the rail line?
Yeah.
These agents spend tons of time out in the middle of the desert, remote areas. So they got some ghost stories, and they're going to be shooting them
They'll
out
just
to us.
stay put, hunker down? Or?
Yeah, they'll stay there. That's their job.
You think they're watching us now?
They could be. I mean, I'm pretty sure the agents are watching us, trying to figure out what we're doing too. You know, so, and the fact that they got probably an outstanding group that's running around up there, you know, they're keeping an eye on us, thinking we're maybe smugglers or something.
Yeah.
Somebody passed behind us here, probably another agent looking for another group. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they popped out right here and ran past us. You know, so this area is very, very active for illegal aliens and smuggling and stuff. Very active. I mean, you wouldn't think it being close to a really nice restaurant. So when I was sitting here, I could hear the dogs barking over here. That's usually an indicator that they shouldn't be there. And you can see dust just below this little parking lot right here. You can see dust. So somebody was driving through there. So probably an agent looking for some bodies.
Wow.
So it's active 24/7. It never ends. You know, the people around here, they got to put up with the helicopters constantly going through.
You want to look at the wall?
Yeah.
Maybe you can take us down there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I've never been, so.
Let's do it.
boy.
For the past few decades, the U.S.-Mexico border has been a breeding ground for violence. With human smuggling, drug trafficking, and other crimes occurring right across this very border, agents of the U.S. Border Patrol are constantly put up against various risks, such as being subject to a physical assault and even being murdered. Leon Baker is an ex-Border Patrol agent who experienced a number of extremely strange paranormal encounters while working with the U.S. Border Patrol outside of El Paso, Texas. So join us tonight as we explore the ghosts of the border.
Range, just in case they decide to start chucking rocks. So,
what do you mean?
Some of the people that live over here, they don't like us too much, so they could start throwing rocks and stuff. So we just want to kind of stay out of their range. So this area right here, this is called Anapra. So it's in.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Where we're at, you know where we're at.
My name is Leon Baker. I'm a retired Border Patrol agent, recently retired. Right now we're in sort of like the area called Sunland Park, New Mexico, but it's called Anapra. This little area is called Anapra, and behind me is the wall. That's the border. Yeah, so it's really active out here. There's constant traffic and stuff like that happening. But we got agents all over the place working this area. But a few years back, probably about 20 years ago, the trains would stop right here, and the people that lived in these colonias back here would rob the trains. So they had a big old operation with the FBI and the Border Patrol, and then so they were set up on it. And as soon as the people started breaking into the trains, the agents swooped down on them to arrest them, and then they just got rocked. You know, people started throwing rocks at them and stuff like that. And some of the FBI agents, they really didn't know where they were at, and they ran for shelter on the south side in Mexico.
I don't mean to laugh,
beat up pretty bad. So it was a big incident. You know, so we don't have those type of incidents now, but that we have the wall here. You know, this wall's been there for a long time. But over there is Mount Cristo Rey. Spooky place in its own. It's just there's so much going on in there. There's probably going to be some smugglers somewhere in there. If you look, you can see a little monument, like a little cement white monument halfway down the mountain right there. That's the border. So that's the actual border. Yeah, it's active. It's active with tons of illegal activity. Tons of illegal activity going on out here.
Has anyone ever been
that's spooky
killed in this area?
Yeah. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you who or when, but
how does that usually happen?
So I mean, we've been working this area since 1924.
Yeah.
You know, so a long time. We've had the illegal aliens come across in the summertime, and it's really hot out here and dry and stuff. And some of them don't even make it up to the what we call the colonia where people live. You know, they just pretty much just go into distress and then pass away, and we find them a few days later.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of stuff happening out here. A lot of stuff.
And a lot of garbage. What's the reason for the garbage?
There's an actual landfill just on the other side of that mesa over there. So there's a landfill that you know, people take their garbage to, and then they smash it down and stuff. But sometimes the wind kicks it up and takes all this debris and blows it over here.
So this is literally coming largely from a landfill.
A lot of it's from the landfill. Yeah.
So that's a lot of trash.
There's a lot of trash. I believe this is also Anapra on the other side. Because they both kind of have the same names, but I'm not real sure about the name of this one. This isn't my station, so I'm not real sure about the name of it. Again, it's just basically a little colonia, a little pueblo, a little town that's on the south, just where, you know, people have over the years, one house, two houses, three houses, and there's probably about 50 houses over there, something like that now.
And then Juarez is that direction.
Well, yeah, Juarez is going to be just on the other side of the mountains, right over there. So this is kind of part of Juarez, like the outskirts of Juarez, right here. So it's not too far.
Well, I'd be so scared doing the interview if, like, you know, people were like pachoo from the other side of the fence.
Juarez is a really big city. You know,
yeah.
It's probably about twice the size of El Paso, and El Paso is not small anymore either. You know, so, but it's a really big town.
What do they use mainly to do?
They got these little ladders. They got several different types of ladders that they make. They have this really cool little ladder that fits right between the metal. So you climb up using this little skinny ladder, and you climb down using the same one. And they make it out of like that real thin rebar and stuff. It's real lightweight. They just hook it over the top and right over. A lot of times they use ropes, rope ladders. You know, it's like MacGyver out here. You know, the smugglers are real good at it. But yeah, you usually got like the Mexican armies hanging out somewhere over here sometimes on the south side, and you know, our guys are.
What do they do? Like drills, or what would they be hanging out there for?
Just to help out with the illegal aliens.
Okay. So
just kind of tell them, don't cross right here. Yeah. Just don't cross right here.
Do you find that the cooperation with the Mexican army or the Mexican government is good?
Yeah, it's not bad. The hard part we have is communication. Like, we really can't communicate with them like radios and stuff like that. We can talk to them. You know, we can get near them and yell at them, hey, you got a group over here, you know, and then they'll go respond to it. They help out a lot. You know, if we got some sort of vehicle that's doing something weird on the south side, we'll call our liaison unit. The liaison unit will get a hold of the Mexican military or the Mexican police department, and they'll pull over the vehicle. So it's pretty timely. I mean, it works out pretty good, you know.
After checking out the wall, Leon took us to Mount Cristo Rey, which is a notorious place in the El Paso area known for its varied reports of paranormal activity. And driving out there to that isolated mountain, I don't know, things started to feel a little eerie. You can see in this footage how the terrain changes, how it was rugged. There were a ton of Border Patrol agents everywhere. And this area is filled with mystery. Look at this little tunnel. We were excited to do this interview.
And down you can see the shoelaces, a couple of hats and stuff down in here. It's kind of like a meeting place where we put the people into trucks and stuff like that and transport them out. And usually the people, we catch them up in the mountains up in here and stuff like that and bring them out.
So these are like hats and articles of clothing from people that tried to cross?
Yeah. Yeah, they got caught. But this is Cristo Rey. I mean, you can see there's an agent up on top of the hill right there. Some interesting things have happened right in this area too.
Is there a road going up there?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it kind of looks like it's like
right up there. Yeah.
They bring it by helicopter. Yeah, they just will. Okay, you're up, Agent Leon. You're here today.
I want to ask you too. What was that tunnel thing? Was that a sealed off tunnel?
Yeah, there's a lot of tunnels underneath this mountain in different areas. There's mine shafts and everything. You name it. This place has got lots of little tunnels and stuff. Damn. I'm not real sure where they end up or where they come from.
I wonder if they made them to like for the smugglers, so they had spots to like hide everybody and stuff like that.
But this place is crisscrossed with tunnels. Yeah.
Kind of eerie looking.
Let's see.
That's why I brought you here.
Say.
All right, so over here in this wash, you can see the footprints down inside there. From here they appear to be pretty fresh. That would probably be at least one group that came through here. If it's just one group, it's pretty sizable, probably about 20 or 30 people. You can see they just come through here. You could tell kind of it happened at night because they end up underneath that instead of just cutting straight across. You know, so it was probably at night, probably last night. Some of the ones that go all the way straight through, those have probably happened sometime today.
You think those people got caught?
Hard to say. It's hard to say out here.
Wow.
So it just depends on how many people we're able to put in the field. You know, sometimes we can, but most of the time they're going to catch them. Most of the time. So right over here, this little hump right there, somewhere inside that little hump, there's some dinosaur tracks, you know, from what 15, 20 million years ago, something like that. But this whole area has got fossils and dinosaur tracks and you name it. It's a magical place. This place is interesting. And
dinosaurs,
creepy.
You know?
Yeah, dinosaurs.
When do you see dinosaur tracks?
I know, it's rare.
Just right there too.
Yep, right there. You can see some more debris from the people that got the belts and stuff like that.
Wow.
More shoelaces everywhere. They take the shoelaces and the belts off and stuff like that, so they don't hurt themselves with them.
Oh, so when they're arrested.
Yes, when they're arrested, because they are arrested, and then the Border Patrol holds them and you know, processes them and stuff like that. So it is an actual detention, just like regular jail. So they got to take all that stuff away from them.
Wow. So any shoelaces are basically from people that have been caught.
Yes.
You know, that's just something I never knew.
It's a great view out here.
Yeah.
At night, this place gets really creepy.
Why?
Really creepy. You can't see anything out here.
Oh, I bet it's jet black.
Yeah, it gets real dark up in here. So that's the entrance to get to the top of the mountain, to get to the cross and stuff like that. So this is where a lot of people from this area on Easter, they'll follow that trail right there and they'll go up through all this stuff to get to that cross you can see up on top. It's a bit of a hike too.
Yo, much love everybody who's watching. If you guys are watching the stream and you like it, hit that like button. It helps us out.
Right now I think
and
we're at about
you.
4,200 feet above sea level.
I appreciate you.
Right around there. So we're up there. So a couple years ago there was a shooting at the Walmart.
Yep.
And a lot of people were killed, and they put these crosses up to commemorate them.
Oh, this is for that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll have you stand. Let's see. Wow, a lot of shoelaces. How about let's just start out with you talking about some bizarre experiences while you were working, not paranormal related.
You know what? Really interesting things happen. You know, you run into people with that are in, I guess you'd say, dire circumstances. So, you know, you catch them. You know, coming into the U.S. is like their last choice that they think is their last choice, and you know, you catch them, you send them back, catch them, send them back, that sort of thing. I actually caught a lady one time, and she had been caught 201 times. Damn. 201. You know, so she wasn't very good at getting away. But 201 times. Yeah, I mean, so many things have happened.
That's crazy.
You know, over 23 years, you know, a lot of different things happen. I caught a guy, he was oh God, what did he say he was? Anyway, he was some sort of scientist. And caught him out in the middle of a cotton field out by Clint, Texas, which is, probably about 50 miles to the east of us. So one of the other guys says, hey, this guy says he's an anthropologist. I was like, really? I said, why are you crossing like this? You know, we need people like you to come in and, you know, get your documents and stuff like that. We need people that are anthropologists here. Why didn't you do it the right way? And he goes, well, it's too hard. I've caught people that they speak perfect English, like with a southern drawl. You know, it's like, what are you doing? You know, and well, I grew up here, and you know, and I got caught and I had to go back, and now I'm trying to get back in again.
That's sad.
And, I mean, I had this one guy, for some reason, legally we decided not to put him in jail. We're just going to take him and send him back to Mexico, like that night. I told him, I said, hey, good news, you're not going to jail tonight. He's like, really? And this guy was from Chicago. You know, he lived in Chicago his whole life, but he was illegal. So he's like, man, when I get back to Juarez, I'm going to get myself a volcano box from KFC. It actually sounds pretty good. You know? But I mean, tons of different things have happened. You know, we just had, you know, some strange things all the time. People ask me, what's the weirdest thing you ever saw? And I said, well, one time it was snowing, and I saw a couch, a red couch, in the middle of the river in the Rio Grande, floating down the river. And well, that's pretty weird. I said, yeah, it's not what you expected, is it? You know, and the weird thing was there was water in the river, and it was snowing. And it was therefore snowing in Mexico at the same time. So it's just an odd situation all the way around. I have not encountered, that I can think of, any murder victims.
Yeah, I agree,
one time I
Boogeyman.
thought it was, but it wasn't. It was a guy was sleeping on the side of the road, which is odd. He started snoring. I was like, oh, thank God. We did run into some bandits, and the bandits shot up some guys, and the guys ran north of the river, and we ended up, you know, finding them, and of course, you know, giving them medical attention and stuff like that, and they had to medevac these guys. They were shot up pretty bad, and that was also down the Clint area down there. I mean, it's a Wild West out there. This whole mountain we're on right here, just a few years back, was full of bandits. Like, you couldn't.
I know this isn't too scary, guys. I promise we'll get some more scary stuff tomorrow for tomorrow night's stream, but this is some pretty crazy stuff.
You couldn't hike this as, like, this time of night. You know, even though the sun's not even down, you couldn't be up there. It was dangerous to be up there. Now, not so much. I mean, the place is crawling with Border Patrol agents now. It's semi-safe.
Have you ever encountered, like, actually being shot at, or
I've been shot at,
like that type of thing?
Yeah, I've been shot at. I mean, I was just sitting there, and there was a Connex box that was just north of the border, basically, and I was sitting by the Connex box, and it was nighttime, and I just hear, you know, when you're being shot at, it sounds a lot different than when you just hear a gun go boom. You can hear the bullets crack through the air. And that's what I saw there. I was sitting out there, I was like, woo. And I shut off my dome light. I was reading a book. I shut off my dome light. I'm like, all right, if you can't see me, you can't hit me. So it happens every once in a while. It's not very common anymore. Mostly out in Arizona and places like that, they have those issues over there. I worked out in Douglas, Arizona area, and that place is rugged. There's so much wide open space. It'll take the people, once they cross the border, it'll still take them a week to get to where they can pick up transportation.
Yeah.
So they're climbing the mountains and the hills
out.
and stuff for a solid week before they can even get picked up. Yeah, a lot of people die, trying to cross. They just don't have enough water, or they get injured and then the smuggler just leaves them behind because they don't care. There's something wrong with those guys. They're not normal people.
You ever been a part of like taking in a notable criminal, or like have you been like? Can you talk about that?
What's up, Ninja? How you doing?
Yeah, years ago. I think this was right after 9/11. Caught a guy from. He was from a couple different places, and this dude, he just chit-chatting with the guy, he knew way too much about certain military things. I didn't even know this stuff. He knew the cost of ships. He knew how many ships we had, stuff like that. And I was like, this guy he's not your regular guy. This guy has something going on. So kind of one of those guys, before we had a really good system of catching those type of people, by now he would definitely be on that list, for sure. Caught a few bad guys, quite a few bad guys, but like mass murderers, no. Like Resendez Ramirez, I think that's what his name is. He was the train killer. He's like a serial killer that he would hop the trains, and he'd get off the train at some place and he'd go kill some lady and live in her house. That's this guy, and he was actually caught somewhere right around in here at one point, and there's a big problem with that because we released him. And that's why, but we had no idea. We had no way of knowing that was who he was. We had no
crazy.
idea. But there's some bad dudes that we're catching. Bad dudes. And a lot of people just don't know it. We keep it quiet. We plug on. The agents just keep doing their job, and we don't make a big deal about some of the really bad people we catch.
Letting somebody go that bad.
Run checks on these people, and they have a rap list. Criminal history. Like that long, 30, 40, 50 pages of criminal history.
I want to hear his ghost story.
Just some of these guys are pretty bad. Kidnappers and all kinds of stuff.
So let's now get into the paranormal stuff.
Hell yeah.
So let's talk, I guess you can just kind of take us through.
All right, so in this area, there's been many, many documented cases. Just on the other side of this hill over here, back in the 90s, helicopter pilot. His name was Louis Stahl. He had crashed his helicopter. He had some power lines, and his helicopter got hooked up and it flipped over and crashed. Well, the people he was chasing, they saw what happened, and they went to the brick plant, which is just on the other side of the hill over here, and reported what they found or what they saw.
Breezy, you're wild in the day, huh?
So when the agents had got called out on the radio, the agents went to help him. He had already passed away. He was pinned underneath this helicopter.
That's sad.
And so now, if the agents are not paying too much attention, or if they're just kind of dozing off or whatever the case may be, they'll hear just a loud slap on the side of their truck, just boom, and it's always the same. It always happens on the side of the truck or the back of the truck, but it's always the same. It wakes you up, that's for sure. It hasn't happened to me, but it's happened to some of my friends. And but they call him Crispy. That's sort of dark humor that law enforcement has, and they know that he's there. They're keeping him alert, and it'll scare the
He wasn't flying crispy.
Crap out of some people. There's another one, and it's somewhere near this area. They had what they call scope trucks set up. Had some Army guys working this truck as a FLIR, forward-looking infrared, and they're watching this guy inside of a little valley, sort of a cut between the hills. And so they sent the agent in to go get him, and they call him on the radio. Hey, you're getting close to him. He's right in front of you. He's right in front of you. And he's like, I got nothing here. There's no one here. Mind you, it's pitch black. It's in the middle of the night, and this guy's alone. And they're like, they're not. This guy, there's nobody here. I can't see anybody.
Damn, with the infrared, they seen somebody and then they went.
And so the Army guys call him up and they say,
Like someone
get
else needs
back
to
up
come
here to the
back
truck
here.
ASAP.
Yeah.
So he goes up to where the guys were, drives up to them, and he shows them the video footage. And there's the guy that they had been tracking right there on camera, standing right nose to nose with the guy with his finger pointing right in his face, just like that. And the guy never saw him.
What?
That's crazy.
And that happened right around somewhere in this area right here.
Who do they think that was?
They had no idea.
So, I mean, he was standing there and then he was gone?
Pointing at your face?
The agent never saw the guy.
Never even saw the guy.
Never saw him. Never saw him, but they had him on camera right there with his finger in his face.
That's crazy.
For me personally, out in my area of operations, which is the Isleta Station, which is on the east side of El Paso, one night there's this area we call the Head Gates.
Oh, yeah, Justin,
and this
what's
is
up,
where
bud?
kind of the big canal that goes through town on the south side of town. It just kind of ends right there, and they control the water level and the speed and stuff like that for irrigation. And a lot of times bodies will be found, drowned, and they'll be found there. And that's where the fire department fishes them out. I was being relieved. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I was ready to leave, and my relief was there, and we're chit-chatting. And our trucks are parked like driver's side together, door to door. And we're sitting there chit-chatting, and something catches my eye, and it's the fence right there, right next to us, probably about 15 feet, 20 feet away from our trucks. And I see a human, but just the shadow of a human walking along the fence right there. And I just watch it, and it just fades away, just gone. I turned to my
Bro, nah, see, I would have been out of there. I'd been like, yo, someone needs to come see this. This can't just be me, right? You need some proof.
buddy, and I said,
no one's gonna
"Dude,
believe you.
You don't believe what I just saw?" He's like, "No." It's like, enjoy your night.
You're like, I'm going home.
I don't think he parked there. I don't think he parked there after that. But that area right there, what we call the Headgates area, is very active. And if you keep your eyes open, you're going to see shadows. Like we've seen shadows crawling behind our trucks, like crawling. You know, we'll look in the rearview mirror and we'll see a shadow crawling, you know, near us. And of course, that'll make you jump out of the truck or roll the windows up, depending on your demeanor. But it'll shock you. It'll definitely wake you up for the rest of the night.
But there's nothing ever there.
No, it's just a shadow. There's another agent. I won't mention his name. He was killed off duty, and they spread his ashes down the river. I would say about half of the old guys that have been around for a while have seen this guy. And I was sitting in my truck. It was probably 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just kicking back and just waiting for something to happen, and just, you know, kind of listening to Coast to Coast, you know, old George Norrie and that sort of thing, you know. I listen to ghost stories on the radio, on AM radio. There's nothing else to do. And all of a sudden, there's a dude sitting next to me in my truck. And he was wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. And
No. In the truck with you? What?
I spun around. It scared the crap out of me because there's nobody in my truck. It was just me. And all of a sudden, there's a guy sitting next to me. And I spun around real fast, and I caught a glimpse of him just long enough to know who it was. And I had met him, and he was killed when I was pretty new in the patrol. But I knew who it was. And I was like, oh my God, he scared the crap out of me. And I wasn't into the paranormal. The ghost shows hadn't even started yet. This is a long time ago. So that shocked me.
What's up, Joel? How you doing?
So I was at this little party.
Hell yeah, is he?
At the station. And I was talking to one of the other guys, and we were talking about the new ghost shows that had just come out. I said, oh man, you know, ghost hunters, man, it's so realistic, you know. And so he tells me a story.
Now.
He said, I haven't told anybody this. And he tells me the same thing that I told you, that there was somebody in his truck with him, and he vanished and scared the crap out of him. And I said, was that over by Campestre, which is a little colonia where it happened to me?
Yeah.
I said, was that at Campestre? And he goes, yeah, how did you know? I said, dude, the same thing happened to me. And it's happened to a lot of the agents. And it's usually when something's gonna happen and you need to be alert, that's when this guy shows up. Another one of my friends.
What? When you're alert, when he's having your back, then he's, you know, when you need to be alert, he shows up, keeps you on your toes. Good, and you, bro? Hell yeah, bro. I'm so tired from driving back 7 hours yesterday. And my newborn, I'm beat.
And at that Headgates area, and he admitted he was starting to nod off. You know, it was slow, it was quiet, it's, you know, kind of cool that night. You know, nothing to do, absolutely nothing happening. And he said this guy shows up at his passenger window, which was down, and this guy shows up, and he leans in to the window, and he says, "Don't trust him," and he motions like that towards the Mexican side. And of course, and the guy just disappears, like right in front of my friend's eyes. What? Disappears. And I asked him, "What do you look like?" He goes, "Well, he was wearing the old metal badge. We used to wear a metal badge instead of the cloth ones now." And he said he's wearing a metal badge, he's a white guy, and he described this guy. I said, "Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about." And this guy had never met this guy before. The agent had never met the person that showed up his window, but he described him
First
perfectly.
of all, if anybody shows up, if I'm nodding off in a truck in the desert working and someone pokes their head in my window, I'm probably going to punch you in the face, and I'm probably going to scream really loud. Like really loud. That's crazy. You were just cool? Like, oh, ghost. It's a ghost. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Was it the same guy?
Yeah, the same guy. He just approached that guy, my friend, wearing a uniform, wearing a cowboy hat just like this, and the old style uniform. And when he approached me, he was in his civilian clothes, which I had seen him in a few times. You know, is exactly how I remember him. But one of the guys actually jumped out of his truck and drew his gun and walked around to the passenger side.
I would have done the exact
like that,
same thing.
You know, like all tactical. You know, because he knew somebody was in the truck, and then there was nobody there. And of course, it freaked him out. Another time, one of the guys was sitting in his truck, and he saw a guy approaching through his rearview mirror. So he looked in there. He sees a guy walking up to him, and that's dangerous. You don't want something like that happening in the middle of the night. You know, that'll freak you out, and it's going to put you on edge.
Even if you're not,
and of course, he jumped out of the truck, and there's nobody. And he went, you know, because it's like sand all over the place. So he went, he cut the sign, which is like it's called cutting sign. It's when you look for footprints. So he looked for footprints all the way around where he thought the guy was, and further, and no footprints. So he didn't know what he saw. He just knew that there's a dude, you know. Let's see what else. There's so much that happens out here. There's another place. Some of the agents like to park. It's near a cemetery nearby. And it's called Smelter Town. And Smelter Town, I think it's going to be just right over the top of the hills over here. And it goes way back to the 1800s. It used to be an old copper smelter back in the basically the cowboy days.
The old copper
Pancho Villa
smelter.
camped just on the south side of there, on the south side of the river, and they would bring the injured people over to Smelter Town to be worked on by the American doctors and stuff like that. Very active back in those days. In the 1918, during the Spanish flu, a lot of children died. And inside that cemetery, a lot of the agents have been up inside that cemetery and heard little children giggling and laughing and playing in the middle of the night in the cemetery and running around their truck while they sit in the truck. A lot of guys refuse to sit up there anymore. So
how do you refuse to set up there? I mean, like,
you just don't.
Job.
No, well, you have a choice.
Choose.
Yeah, you get to choose. They give you a zone, basically an area. So you choose if you're going to sit on top of this hill or sit on that hill or you know where. You know, like the guy that's sitting up on the top of the hill over there, he's choosing that because he can see up the trail. And he can see around us too. You know, so he's got a good vista. He can see all the way down there. It's a really good place to sit. So that cemetery is a good place to sit also. But people decide they don't want to do it because they just get freaked out.
Yeah,
I would. It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
That's terrifying.
So a lot of the guys are like, you know, you didn't tell me that was going to happen. Some people have no idea. You know, a lot of times you hear a story and then you freak yourself out. You know, because you heard the story, so you're thinking, oh, I think I just heard kids. You know, but in reality, it's just your mind's making things up. It's playing tricks on you. It could be birds or something like that making the noise. But in this case, like in the case of one of the guys, nobody had told him that story. He hadn't heard it. He had no idea that was going to happen, and it happened to him, and he lost it. He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" You know. I mean, I've been in the camera room, and we see on camera one time. We saw a guy cross, and we had a good visual of him, and we were watching him. It was nighttime, so we had the infrared on him, and we watch him, and crawls behind this bush. Not a very big bush, you know, it was, you know, like that big, you know, it wasn't a very big bush. And he crawls behind that bush and stays put. We could see the other side of it, we could see everything. But he was behind the bush, so we couldn't see him, but we could see the glow of his body heat behind it. And we call the agents approach it, and you can see the agents, there's probably 15 agents all around this thing, and they're with their flashlights, and they're looking for footprints, they're looking for sign. And they can't find anything, and they're calling us, hey, there's nothing here. We're like, that bush right there. And they put them in on the bush, and they walk around the bush. They're like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. And
Damn.
You know, over a few minutes, you can see that heat signature just fade away. And we had the same thing happen.
Aliens?
We watched the
Skinwalker?
body
What do you
come
guys think it
across
is?
The river, and across what we call the Vega, which is like a low part, just north of the river. And we have a levee that goes up. It's probably, I don't know, 7-8 feet high. But it's got, you know, gently sloping sides in most places. In this place, it was probably about a 30-degree slope, you know, so we could basically see everything except that backside. And this guy approaches the levee, and he disappears behind the levee. And we're scanning all over the place. We're looking everywhere. We can't see where this guy went. We call it the agent. The agent goes there, and you can see him nice and slow driving. We're like right there. And he goes, there's nothing. There's no footprints. Nothing. And it's soft sand. There was nothing. You know, so we were actually picking things up on camera that the human eye couldn't see, which is odd. I mean, but it is FLIR, you know, so it's a little bit different technology than your regular camera. And yeah, that'll mess with you a little bit. But yeah, it's let's see what else.
Just a spirit,
how about
right?
The figure that people were seeing on the mountain. Can you talk about just that mountain that you were talking about the other day?
Otay Mountain.
Yes. Yes.
So I haven't been to
Otay
Otay.
Mountain.
I got some friends out there. There's a guy who wrote a book. I think it's called Out on Foot. He wrote a book. It started off just basically the things that he had done while he was in the Border Patrol, and you know, just your regular catching people type of thing, you know, smugglers,
Right,
etc.,
Izzy?
responding to accidents. But then it takes a shift, and it goes into the paranormal. And so what they had seen was they had seen in the middle of the night, there's like
Much
no
love, John,
people
for
on this whole
subscribing,
mountain.
bud. I appreciate
It's
you.
bigger than this, and there's no people out there except for a couple of agents, and the agents don't go too far away from their vehicle unless they're in teams. So they were out.
Yo, much love for everybody watching tonight. I appreciate you guys. If you guys want extra perks in the chat, extra perks for the stream, and extra videos, go ahead and join our memberships right now. We're looking forward to get a few more people, and then we're going to give out some special gifts for our first couple members. I don't know. YouTube says it wants us to hit something. We need one more, and we're going to be there. Much love, you guys. I appreciate you. Let's get back to the video.
There, and they see walking up the ridge of the mountain, they see a little glowing kid, a little girl, probably about 6, maybe 5 years old,
glowing?
in her dress, walking by herself up the mountain ridge. And there's no way that there could be a little glowing kid out there unless it was paranormal, but she'd been seen more than one occasion. One of the agents had seen her floating face down in a stream that ran through there. Of course, he freaked out, and he ran back to his truck to call it out on the radio. Hey, I found a little kid out here, you know, that appears to be deceased. And so as soon as he got to his truck, he heard a noise, and he turned, and that little girl was standing right there next to his truck, right next to him. And, you know, of course, that freaked him out too.
Right, Roll?
That mountain is interesting. I'd love to go out there, but at the same time, terrified. You know, that place is.
By the way, if you guys are trying to see these videos come from the Paranormal Files. Much love to him for letting me review these and react to them tonight. Shout out to him. This is a retired Border Patrol agent that's telling us his stories today.
This sounds just absolutely creepy. I'm sure not everything happens
What's up, Blanco?
Every single day, but just the chance that you'd run into something cool like that, you know, it's just kind of freak you out. So the way they put it in the book, I'm not going to sell out the whole book here, but a couple of agents were on foot, and they were down in this valley, and they're waiting for a group to come out, and they estimate the group probably, I don't know, 40, 50 people. So they're down there in the brush just waiting, and they're calling back and forth on the radio. And there's a camera operator that's stationed nearby somewhere, and he's watching the whole thing. And the agents start hearing something moving through the brush, and it's getting kind of close. So the camera operator says, "Get out of there now. Just get out of there." And they call back up. They say, "Hey, the group is coming to us. We can hear them. He said, negative, get out of there now. So the official story was that there was a big old mountain lion out there, and they needed to get the agents out of there because the mountain lions are known for eating people in those places. Yeah, they eat people.
I've had one stalk me one time.
It happens all the time. When this guy was retiring, he told the agents the true story, that he had seen a very large humanoid thing crashing through the brush towards them. And he said it was much bigger than a normal person.
What? Yo, that's actually kind of insane.
Let's go by. There's some people out there, they're wearing khakis and polos and stuff like that, and they run into the agents, or the agents run into these.
What you wearing? Khakis. Well, that sounds horrible.
These guys, and they kind of joke around. They say, well, where are you guys from? They said, well, from the Bureau of Land Management. And they said, oh, you guys out here looking for Bigfoot? And they're like, well, actually. So they indicated that they actually were looking for Bigfoot out there. You know, so that'd be kind of an interesting job to have in the BLM. It's a Bigfoot hunter.
A Bigfoot hunter? Right. That's going to be me. Once we get enough members, I'm going to be Bigfoot hunting.
Yeah, they were watching it on the FLIR. Yeah, they were watching it on the camera. And but they didn't want that sort of news to get out that there's something out there that's freakishly large and freak out in the agents. They don't want to go out there anymore. But there it was, you know, it finally came out, and now it's public news. You know, they were actually watching something that doesn't technically exist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know.
How about UFO sightings?
Humanoid is crazy to say, right?
Border Patrol agents, or even you?
Yeah, well, one of the Santa Teresa agents was actually telling me that they were watching something, and it lifted up from the ground, and it flew, and it landed again, but it never lifted up again. And so they sent the agents out there to find out what it was. They're thinking maybe they had a drone or something out there, right? And
yeah, oh, I thought that was an alien. I thought that was an orb coming in right there.
So they went out there to find it, and they couldn't find anything out there. There's no footprints, there's no markings, nothing. But there it was, you know. They saw it with their cameras.
Okay, UFO basically.
Basically a UFO. Yeah, we have no idea what it was. It just, you know,
went
it just
straight
was
into the
odd.
ground.
You know, something like that. I mean, I've seen UFOs, but I was like a little kid. And out here in desert areas, especially going out towards Alamogordo, you're going to see some weird stuff. As a matter of fact, we were in this little place called Oro Grande. And Oro Grande is like this little stopover, not even a stopover, it's a pass-through. There's like 10 houses in this place. And we stopped to, it used to be like an A&W or something. There's like a little restaurant there. And the building still exists. But we were coming out of there, and we were like in this porch area, and just then we see these very large, round objects. They're like brown and black, almost like footballs. But there's like 3 or 4 of them, you know, just kind of floating, hovering. At the time, my dad worked at White Sands Missile Range, which White Sands has a lot of projects that nobody can talk about. So the people there, and we're talking, this is the early 70s, and the people are like, oh, you know what, that's just probably one of the projects that they're working on, you know, at White Sands. Everybody's like, oh, okay, because these things were there, and they're hovering, and they're silent, but you could see them very, very clearly. So everybody's like, oh, yeah, that must be what it is. That must be what it is. I mean, I was little. I was hiding behind my mom watching these things. I was scared to death. And they took off. And so when we were... Jesus.
Oh, God.
What the hell?
Them off.
Yeah, no, it went right by my ear. Right when you're talking about UFO.
I hate when that happens.
Welcome to the desert.
Small UFO.
It's a small UFO.
Whoa, buddy. Whoa.
It won't hurt you.
No.
Getting beat up by bugs is crazy.
Yeah. So everybody was relieved when they started saying, oh, you know what, it's going to be one of the projects from White Sands. And, oh, okay. And my dad said, and when we were getting in the car, my dad said, it's not one of ours. Probably that same year, we were driving to El Paso from Alamogordo. We had a medical emergency with, I think it was my little brother or something was sick. And so we were driving all the way down to El Paso from Alamogordo, which is like 70 miles. And it's a very dark drive back then. And as we're driving, something was like hovering next to us, like keeping up with us. And it was not on the road, it's off the side of the road. You know, so they saw that too. I didn't get to see that. I wasn't paying attention. I was just little. I've heard a lot of the agents say that they've seen some.
It's kind of like that last story that we heard of the guy that we were just watching earlier. How something was flying above him when he was out in the desert?
Some interesting UFO type stuff out there in the desert. I mean, some of the things that they work on, the military works on and stuff. I was on this highway called 62-180, and basically in the middle of nowhere, nobody around. It was just me, and there's hardly any traffic on the highway, and it was still daylight. And I just happened to look over towards this valley area, and I see a wingtip of like a fighter jet just come up. You see the wingtip like that, and then go back down. No sound. No sound whatsoever. So some of that UFO stuff might have been some sort of military thing that they're working on. Some of it could be legit. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on out in the deserts and stuff out here that we just don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
That's crazy.
What about these? Yeah, I know. Every time we film anywhere, there's a goddamn train.
Always a train.
Seriously.
I was going to quickly say, like, when I was at Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas, you know, I was there on a rotation, and I was there during the time when the stealth fighter was secret, and they were doing test runs, and people thought, you know, UFOs. And then there was the stealth bomber, and then there was a Black Hawk crash as well that killed, like, unfortunately, like 7 servicemen. But that's what the deal. But even the base, the people were like, "Oh my God, I think I've seen these lights," and they didn't even know it was the stealth fighter being one of these test runs at night only. You know, yeah. But
we had an SR-71 crash northeast of town, probably about an hour outside of town.
The one that goes really
high. This was back in the way back in the day. I think it was either in the 60s or 70s, and people still didn't know what it was, and it crashed out there. Living this close to military bases, you'll see some interesting things. I mean, one time on the horizon, I was watching up on the horizon, there's like a little dot up there, like a bright light, and the sun went down and the light's still there.
Damn.
And I'm like, what is that? And I got my binoculars out and I'm looking, and it's a balloon. It was a weather balloon. It was so high that it was above the where the sun was hitting the earth. The sun was still hitting it. And this is way up
Hold
there.
yourself.
That'll mess you up. You know, you think it might be a UFO. It's not, you know. I'm a skeptic when it comes to that stuff, but when I see something like that, especially like in my case, when we saw those things, and my dad's like, that's not ours, then that's when you got to start questioning, what is it really?
Exactly. Yo, much love to everybody. Thanks to our members. I just want to do a roll call shout out to you guys. We got a few I got to put on the list. We'll see that tomorrow. I just want to do that shout out real quick. So much love. You guys get us one step closer to our goals. So I appreciate you all. And we're back.
You know, that might be legit.
So these mountains, any specific stories from here?
There's a lot of, as you know already, there's a vibe here. There's
yeah, Robert,
some
I
sort
believe
of really
it.
Almost nefarious energy in this place. You know, it's not supposed to be that way. It's kind of like a holy site, you know. But there's this nefarious energy here. A lot of the guys do see shadows moving and stuff like that. I've heard of agents going after some people that they thought they saw, and there's nobody
Nothing
there.
being there. Yeah.
You know, they get there and there's no footprints, no nothing.
Shadow
but
people,
they
for
knew that
sure.
they had seen they knew that they had seen bodies, and I'm just not sure. I think like right in there somewhere, I think is where they would see it.
The
It'll
Super
shake
Hornet?
you up.
Shit.
When you're out here in the middle of the night, nice and quiet, everybody's, you know, using light. They're trying to be really, really careful with their light and their sound and stuff like that. They're using light discipline and noise discipline, and they're just being real quiet. And all of a sudden, you see several shadows, and they're not people. You know, they're not living humans, and it's been seen here a lot.
No, wasn't that damn off?
No, it was that was pretty weird because I don't know. It was just I could see like a blurry shape, like almost it wasn't just like almost like a gray mist, but just right here, like right here. It just went right here and
Just now when I paused the camera, we saw
that's
something
interesting.
go right by
crazy.
Jeff.
I shut my camera off as well.
Yeah, we both shut our camera off and then it immediately happened.
I know first it just did it again.
Oh.
Okay, that's all right. So I thought maybe it was like, you know, because it's cool out, it's my breath and this, but the wind is moving a little bit. So, and I thought maybe, you know, something to do with my vision, because, you know, sometimes you see things out of the corner of your eye, but it was not out of the corner of my eye. It was right there, and it happened 2 times exactly the same, right there.
And it's funny to buy these.
Yeah, I wonder if it's some sort of residual.
Mm-hmm.
Something that just happens over and over and over. I did not, it just did it again.
Oh my gosh.
It just did it again.
Oh.
That's 3 times.
That's crazy.
All right, who's here?
Jeez, now I'm kind of feeling a little like queasy.
I have a piercing headache.
Or something.
Like
something's happening.
The whole time we've been here, I've had to
make anything up either. It's like
no, me either.
I did not expect to see something. And we're not inside a building. You know, usually you're inside a building or something. But I mean, I didn't.
Yo, what's up, Hawk? How you doing tonight?
I did not expect that. 3 times, and then each time it wasn't exactly the same. Like if I had something wrong with my eye, it'd probably be the same each time. But this is 3 different times. 2 times right here, 1 time a little bit smaller, and it's probably another 3 or 4 feet that way.
Wow.
Okay.
Yo, what's up, Jicky boy?
Leon.
Sorry we're kind of the end, but I'll leave the stream up so you guys can rewatch it.
So El Paso, I would think, is this region, as you guys have found out, this whole region is the most paranormally active area I've ever seen in my life. I've been in a lot of places in the world, and I've never seen anything like El Paso. Never. This place has so much paranormal activity. It's just every building downtown is haunted. Like everything we've ever gone to investigate has had activity. We didn't expect activity at every single time, but every single time there's activity.
Much
and
love,
it's just
Hawk.
amazing.
I appreciate
just
that, bud.
A place like
It's at
this,
100
what we
for
saw
2
just a
joules.
second ago.
Oh yeah, I
It just
appreciate
blows
you,
my
buddy.
mind. This whole place.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Well, I felt something.
You know what that means. He went ahead and did some donations, so got something for y'all. Check out this video real quick. You might
14 meter, 20 meter.
Now you know we had to do the jump scare.
It just did it again. That's 4 times, and it's all the same right here. It's got to be residual.
I ain't never gonna stop doing
I'm telling you,
jump
El
scares.
Paso's got something going on. So there's just so much activity here. You can spend every single day going to a different place, and you're going to find activity.
At the end of the day, it was super interesting to hear these stories from Leon, right where a lot of these stories actually happened. And I don't really know. I don't know if that mountain is haunted. I think it probably is. But when we return from our short break from the Paranormal Files, we're going to be bringing you guys some of the craziest investigations.
Hell yeah. Yo, much love, guys, for showing out tonight. We did an 1.5-hour stream. That's half an hour more than I usually do. I'm exhausted from the 7-hour drive yesterday. Traffic in Los Angeles was crazy. I'm going to go spend some time with my son and try to get some rest. Much love for watching. Tomorrow night, like I promised, since we didn't stream Wednesday, we will do another stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific time. You guys know it. Much love. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you.
Yes, you. Do you dread waking up in the morning? Are you feeling helpless in your society? Perhaps even a bit lost? Well, look no further.
Well, as millions head to U.S. national parks this summer, we are shedding light on a little-known list called the List of the Missing.
All new Scareflix merch 10% off.
A ranger on the list of the missing for more than 4 decades, and cases go back further. The National Park Service has faithfully kept records of visitors who are gone, often without a trace, and the list is long.
Police have identified 4 victims and plan on more than just the 4 murder charges filed today.
Good evening. You're turned into Scareflix News at midnight.
Confirm earlier reports of cannibalism.
Reports are coming in of unexplained screams echoing through an abandoned coal mine in West Virginia.
The building was a scene of ghoulish slaughter.
Local authorities refuse to investigate. Witnesses say it doesn't want to be found.
A large kettle on the stove which held boiled body parts.
In other news, several viewers have claimed strange activity begins the moment they tune into live stream of a channel called Scareflix.
Identified 4 victims.
Please stay indoors, lock your doors, and whatever you do, don't go offline. You're watching